Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So today I'm going to be talking about trends that I'm noticing within the Digimon card game. So right now in English we are currently in BT04 and the BT04 meta is a really diverse meta because there's just a lot of playable decks and there's a lot of powerful decks that can be played, and I really am enjoying my time with this format. Even though I'm personally struggling a little bit with what I want to play, considering there's just so many options to pick from. But as I'm building a lot of decks and playing a lot of games, I'm noticing trends between all of what I've been playing and what I've been playing against, and just how other people are playing in general. So I noticed that the game is kind of shifting into a raising meta, where the whole idea of the raising meta is you're not necessarily moving your Digimon out of raising very often, and you're just keeping one Digimon in the raising to build it to be as powerful as it possibly can, and then when you move that Digimon out, you're going to have the highest amount of impact you possibly can with the highest amount of results because you kept it in raising, safe from harm and safe from anything happening to it. So this type of gameplay leads to certain decks and certain cards being a lot better than they normally would be, where if you were just to move it out of raising as a champion or ultimate, then you have a very high chance of getting blown out just because of the amount of removal in the game. So there's also just a lot of increased removal in the game, and the removal is definitely getting stronger and stronger. So as a result, players are tending to try to keep their Digimon as safe as possible, and the only safe place for them is the raising area. So that's kind of just how the raising meta is developing, and as a result, we could definitely see this increase in combo play, and this increase in combo play definitely maximizes the overall output of the Digimon, and like I said before, when you move that Digimon out of raising, you're going to want to have the most and the highest impact you possibly can have with that card, assuming next turn it is going to be dying. So because of this trend, it definitely is influencing how a lot of people are playing and what cards are being played and what decks are performing very well. So there's only two types of decks that I noticed that are performing relatively well, and that is obviously the control decks, where the whole idea is to just kill everything that the opponent has and make sure they are left with nothing. Or you're playing one of the combo decks where you're just, again, building something very powerful up in raising, and then the second you move it out is the second you want it to be doing as much as it humanly possibly can, and if the opponent doesn't have anything to respond or deal with, then they'll just crumble under the pressure of what that card is doing. So each color has this kind of like combo play style where there's usually a deck in each color that's performing well above every other deck, and given the context of the meta. And for blue, it is Imperial Dramon. So Imperial Dramon is performing very well because he combos with Payil Dramon, where once you have Payil Dramon, you could just basically swing with him, then Digivolve into Imperial, then swing with Imperial, then Payil Dramon's going to give the ability to attack once again with Imperial. So the moment you bring Payil Dramon out of raising and you could Digivolve safely into Imperial, you're going to be doing at most bare minimum 3 attacks. And then if Imperial is left unchecked, then the constant pressure of Imperial double swinging every turn with jamming will just make the opponent crumble under that pressure. And a whole bunch of other decks have this similar style of gameplay where you have War Greymon for yellow being one of the best, if not the best yellow deck, because you just move him out of raising. Then you're going to be swinging for at least 2 attacks because of his ability allowing him to unsuspend. And on top of that, he's also drawing you a card from your security, decreasing your security count, and also having a removal ability to try to delete one of the opponent's Digimon through DP reduction. So War Greymon can be paired up with a whole bunch of different play styles to really fit what you need. So you could pair up with Angelmon and Magnadramon to increase the overall pressure. So it allows you to spam rookies like Bushi Agumon, which have haste, to again just to deal extra damage really, really fast. So the ideal setup with War Greymon is with Angelmon, put yourself to 3 security because of War Greymon's ability, and then you'll get 2 attacks, play 2 Digimon, and if those 2 Digimon are Bushi Agumons, then you get 2 extra attacks on top of it, so that's 4 swings in 1 turn. So there's other things you could do with War Greymon also, so you could play him more control-y, so if you're using War Growlmon, then you could utilize his Digiburst ability to reduce the opponent's Digimon by 4, and then on top of the 6, and then on top of any other inheritables that he has, you could really just deal a lot of DP reduction to delete a lot of different targets, or delete one big target. So War Greymon is just a very versatile and flexible deck on how you could build him and how he wants to be played, and because of that flexibility on top of that type of combo play that I mentioned earlier, he is just one of the more powerful decks because of this. Red has a whole bunch of really combo-heavy decks too, where the whole idea is just build up the security tech pluses and stack them. So we have the Greymon and we have the Voltramon that just on level 4 and level 5 give your Digimon security tech plus, and then you have a whole bunch of Digimon that you just want to swing with, so that way you could try to deal as much damage as humanly possible, and then if you don't break all of their security in one turn, then you could try to do it again the following turn with just an extra swing. So there's just a lot you could do with Red as a whole, and one of the bigger highlights is going to be like Ragnar Lordmon, because the idea is basically the same, where you just keep a Durandamon fully built in your raising, then you move it out, then Digivolve into Ragnar Lordmon, and then you basically just try to swing for as much damage as you humanly possibly can. And again, if they don't deal with it, then they'll just crumble under the pressure because they don't have any security. You have a high-level Digimon on the field, and you could possibly have other Digimon to try to threaten or pressure lethal, on top of the fact that you also have a Gunimon to just utilize your Tamers for an extra attack. So Red even has this combo heavy style, and then Red also has its control style, where it just has a lot of really good tempo tools to just go up into the level 7s, and then just try to control the opponent through the use of the level 7s. But the idea is still the same whether you're playing control or combo. Red has a lot of flexibility on how it can do both as well. Purple is also another really good example of this combo style play, where right now Purple Metal Garurumon is just doing absolutely fantastic right now in the format, just because of this concept where you just build up safely in raising, then the second you move him out, you basically throw away all of his inheritable sources to try to get as much value out of the options that you could be utilizing as possible. So he combos really nicely with Nailbone, just because Nailbone is a 7-cost option that allows you to play a level 3 or level 4 for free. So making use of Metal Garurumon's Digiburst ability to play that option for free, on top of which you're at least fueling the first one because you are yourself with the Digiburst ability, putting a level 3 and 4 into the trash to then use Nailbone to play them for free, and that's just a lot of pressure and tempo put onto the opponent on top of any other inheritable sources or options you could be playing. But again, the concept is still the same, where you're just holding the Digimon back in raising, moving them out, and then making one very powerful combo swing. So he's just fitting naturally with that current style of meta, on top of which, because Purple also has some really good removal options, he also could be played in a more control-heavy deck, where you just utilize all of their removal options to their utmost potential, because of Metal Garurumon being able to play Trump Sword and Hell's Gate basically for free. So this kind of like heavily enforces whether you're comboing or controlling, you're doing one of those two aspects. And a lot of the top performing decks have the ability to do both. So another deck that can do both is the Grand Kuwagamon OTK deck, where obviously the combo is you just have Grand Kuwagamon sitting in raising, you just build him up, hopefully the only thing you care about is a Palmon underneath, so that way when you move him out of raising, you're going to use his Digiburst ability to just allow you to gain a whole bunch of security attacks, and then you use Palmon to give him jamming, so that way those security attacks are as safe as they possibly can be. But again, this is just the current concept on how the meta is being played. Hold back in raising, move out, combo, kill. That's kind of it. And then the Grand Kuwagamon deck also has really good removal options in the form of Nidhoggmon, where any of the opponent's rested Digimon basically go to the bottom of the deck the second you move him out of raising. So whether you're moving out of raising to kill or control, it doesn't really matter. The whole point is you're just keeping your Digimon as safe as it possibly can be in raising, threatening the opponent to have a response to when you move it out, and if they don't, they lose. If they do, then you kind of just try to figure out a way to rebuild and then try to go back and forth from there. But rebuilding is a little bit harder now more than ever, just because we are utilizing the raising area to just hold back our more powerful Digimon. So we're not trying to build as powerful of Digimon as quickly on the field as we possibly can, because most of that attention is going into the raising area. So it really creates this like chicken dynamic where whoever moves out first needs to have the utmost confidence in their power play, otherwise they could easily get blown out. And then black also has this style of play where you just have Blastmon and Zubagon Punch, and you could use that to deal lots of damage relatively quickly, or utilize it to try to control or mitigate what the opponent is doing, just because Final Zubagon Punch is a rather flexible card. You don't have to use it offensively, you could use it defensively, just because it does give blocker and reboot, so you can make some really interesting decks and really interesting pairings with Final Zubagon Punch, but obviously the card it's supposed to be intended for is Blastmon, because Blastmon's just one of the easier cards that I could work with. But again, the concept is just still the same. You just hold back your Digimon in raising, move it out, and then combo to deal lots of damage, and then you have other cards to act as a good defense or control tool to kind of have a way to try to mitigate or stabilize what the opponent is doing. So it's just a trend that I've been noticing in the card game, and I felt like it was definitely a really important trend to be highlighting. And if you want to be doing well in this current format, this is kind of like the style of play that you kind of have to start adopting to, because of just how everything is shaping up. Because if you just try to play the game a little bit on the normal side, where you're just moving your Digimon out of raising as fast as you possibly can, so that way you could draw and cycle through your eggs as fast as you possibly can, definitely isn't the best form of strategy, because again, there's just so much removal and there's just so much combo play that you could easily get blown out for doing that. And as I mentioned, there's just a whole bunch of control elements and tools in the game that just really incentivize you wanting to keep your Digimon in raising, otherwise you could get blown out. So a lot of removal is starting to form on level 5s, so you're going to have a couple of these Digiburst Digimon that have very impactful and very powerful removal abilities, and this also applies to some megas where we just have more megas that have really powerful removal effects. So War Growlmon is one of the more powerful removal cards that we currently have as a level 5, where you just move them out of raising, and then you could Digiburst minus 4k, and then if they have enough memory, they could Digivolve into Slash, and then minus 8k, so that's minus 12k, and that'll just delete almost any mega in the game, and that's something you really have to respect, because again, if their Digimon is left unchecked after they bring it out of raising, then they could just easily take the game away, and that's just something as a player you want to try to prevent, so you have to play a whole bunch of these powerful control cards. So Victory Greymon is another pretty good control card where it really punishes greedy plays, where if they have their Digimon moved out of raising and they're hoping to get value off of it on the field, then Victory Greymon can take advantage of that, and if it's not going into the mega, then he could delete basically almost any level 5 or lower. And then Nidhoggmon is another really powerful like control type card where you could just try to flood the field, but if all of the Digimon are rested, then Nidhoggmon will basically clear the field, and he also helps mitigate a lot of like go wide strategies because they're not evoing into very tall stacks, and he's also a really good card against the new line of blockers because they have 5k, so this card's just actually doing a whole lot of work. Even though you do have to move a ultimate out of raising, then Digivolve into Nidhoggmon, you don't necessarily care about passing the turn over to the opponent because they won't have anything on the field to begin with when you're using Nidhoggmon. And then you just, again, have Zed that's acting similar to Victory Greymon. Then you just have a whole bunch of removal options in the form of like Cocytus Breath is being a little bit more played in blue, just because blue doesn't really have that great of removal. They need something, and Cocytus Breath is that something. Then in red you have Gaia Force, purple you have Trump Sword and Hell's Gate. Like each color has their own type of big removal for the most part, and those are the cards that they're generally going to be running as like the only option of their deck, unless their deck is a very specific deck that's tailored to doing something different. But at worst, if they're not running any removal options, they are going to be running a level 7, and most, if not all, of the level 7s are acting as some form of removal. So as I just mentioned, almost all of the level 7s except for Ragnalordmon are acting as some form of removal. So Omnimon, when you Digivolve up into him, after you utilized your Mega to its utmost potential and after you make its huge combo play, usually most of the time if that card doesn't have a recursive type of play, then you want to Digivolve it into the level 7 right away, so that way you could utilize the level 7 to act as the removal finisher. So Omnimon, as an example, he just straight up, when you Digivolve him, deletes one of the opponent's Digimon, and then any of the Digimon that share the same name are also deleted too. Then you have Millenniumon, which just puts a Digimon back to the bottom of the owner's deck, thus getting rid of it off the field and preventing the opponent from triggering its on-delete ability. Then you have Alter S, which acts like another pseudo board wipe, where de-digivolves the opponent's Digimon at worst, thus setting them a little bit behind on tempo. And then if any of the Digimon have 5,000 power or less, which there's a lot more that are being ran, then he just board wipes the opponent's Digimon, and that's just, again, another very powerful removal type of ability. And then you have Chaosmon, who's just a really good card to combo with black or green decks because you utilize him with Grand Kuwagamon, and the Security Tech Plus carries over to him. You utilize him in black with Zubagon Punch, and the Zubagon Punch buffs will also carry over to Chaosmon. So Chaosmon is just an absolutely insane card just because the buffs will carry over to him, and because of his unique ability of piercing and being able to unsuspend himself and attack into the opponent's Digimon even when the turn passes over to the opponent. That's just very, very powerful because 9 out of 10 times, you're just going to be swinging at whatever mega the opponent has, and because he's a level 7, he's going to be able to clear most level 6s in the game with this ability when you Digivolve up into him, with any buffs carried over to deal additional damage, and that's just what makes Chaosmon a very powerful removal card. And then you also have the other Chaosmon Volder Arm, which again has just more DP reduction, so you could target 2 smaller things and clear out a lot of potential level 5s and less, or you could use it stacked on one big thing to just clear off whatever threat the opponent currently has, and then if that threat has any additional DP debuffs, then it just adds to the flexibility and versatility on how good this removal ability is. So even all of the level 7s are acting as some form of removal, and most colors have access to at least one, if not multiple, level 7s currently in the game. And even if their deck isn't running any removal options, which they still could be running removal options, you could still count on having them have access to a level 7 to act as some additional removal. And then the last big thing in the meta is just how much free playing and free casting and free value there currently is. So there's just a whole bunch of different cards in the card game that just allow you to do actions for free and make some very powerful combo plays. So we have a couple of options that are being very heavily played just because they are all zero cost options that could very easily swing the tide of the game because of what they're cheating on. So we have Hammer Spark and Blinding Ray that are both cheating on memory, where you could just gain some additional memory out of nowhere and utilize that additional memory to make even more powerful plays possible. So one of the big combo plays is like Blinding Ray off of a TK, and then you use that TK to put yourself to 3, Blinding Ray to put yourself to 5, and then you could hard cast Bushi Agumon to then swing with Rush, and that's just very powerful of a play, especially if they don't have a blocker on the field or they don't have any security, and that could just easily win you the game. Hammer Spark, it could be utilized in some various different ways with either Lobomon or XVmon to just gain some additional attacks out of nowhere, or just additional memory to utilize some options to make it so that you actually can play your Digimon more efficiently and make your aggression that much easier. And then you also have Hidden Potential Discovered, which was so powerful that it got limited just because it allows you to cheat on memory and reduce your Digivolution cost. So Digivolving into a Nidhoggmon for free to then go into a Chaosmon is just absolutely busted. So Hidden Potential was limited because of that. And another card that was limited was Argomon and the Digisorption mechanic, which allows green to just cheat on tempo. Yes, you kind of do have to move your Digimon out of raising, but if I'm just sitting on a champion in raising, move it out, Digizorb it for free into an Argomon to then Digivolve for 5 into Nidhoggmon is just super powerful because they might not be expecting that line of play, and that line of play could wipe their entire board, thus moving the game more forward in favor of the Nidhogg player. So, like, green has a ton of ways of just cheap evos and cheating on tempo, and then you just have a whole bunch of other cards that just allow you to utilize whatever they're doing to cheat on tempo in some way, shape, or form. So you have the Rise Greymons that let you play Tamers for free. You have Inheritable Sources that just let you play your Digimon for free. You have a whole bunch of abilities that just allow you to play your Digimon for free, whether it's when attacking or when Digivolving, or you just have the ability to just utilize your options for reduced or free amounts, which then you could use your options in various different ways to do very powerful and impactful things. And then you have on-delete abilities that also will allow you to free play your bodies, thus making the Digimon sticky and very hard to deal with. So there's just a ton of ways to gain free additional value in the game, and these are the And these are just some examples of cards that are just sticking out that allow you to just gain some free advantage for basically doing almost nothing, even though, yes, that is like literally the whole purpose and point of the card is just to utilize them for that type of advantage. But again, free advantage is just good advantage. And then another big trend is just the use of memory fixing tamers. So to utilize a lot of these combos as efficiently as you possibly can, most of the time when you're bringing your Digimon out of raising, it's either going to be an ultimate or mega. If it's an ultimate, you definitely want it to be paired up with a memory fixing tamer on field, so that way you could actually utilize the mega and not pass your turn over to the opponent. Sometimes, depending on the mega that you're going to be utilizing, you actually want to build it all the way up to a mega in raising. But regardless, you still want to have the memory fixer so that way you can ensure that you're going to make your plays as powerful and consistent as you possibly can. And these are the best memory fixing tamers that we currently have for their respective colors. But again, all of these are just really important cards for their respective colors, not only just because they are the memory fixing tamer, and being at 3 is insanely important, because again, most of the megas that you want to be utilizing are going to have an evo cost of 3, or their removal ability is going to be so powerful you don't necessarily care. So what I've been noticing a lot of people doing is just literally having a memory fixing tamer on the field, bring their ultimate out of raising, digivolve it into a mega, then swing with the mega, and then after utilizing the mega's ability, then you could utilize it to just go into the level 7 to control the opponent's card, and that's like the absolute perfect response to dealing with a lot of the opponent's potential threats. Again, obviously this is the most ideal line of play, but the fact that a lot of decks are leaning more towards into this style of play definitely heavily influences this raising type of gameplay style that we're leaning towards more and more. And then if you think this style of gameplay is going away, BT05 looks like it's going to be continuing the trend of either combo or control. So we just have a whole bunch of new tools being added in BT05 that'll just double down and incentivize on this type of gameplay. So you'll have like combos like War Growlmon, Chaos Gallantmon, and Demonic Disaster, paired up with like Tactimon and a whole bunch of other cards to do some really powerful things in purple. You have Nightmon and Lord Nightmon to just continue what War Greymon was doing in yellow. And then you have some new blue tools that could act as some more removal in the form of Metal Garurumon and help synergize with playing level 7s, so it'll definitely incentivize more of a control blue style. And then red also is gaining a little bit more control with War Greymon, also fitting on theme with that and synergizing nicely with level 7s. Or you could utilize Shoutmon DX and Z to just act as some really good control through there as well because of what they're doing on top of whatever else red has access also. Black is getting Metal Garurumon, which natively has Reboot and heavily incentivizes the Reboot synergies and Reboot strategies, so that's getting stronger on top of his Digiburst ability, just allowing you to potentially burn the opponent's security, so he's already looking to be pretty good. And then you have Dioboromon with Kurisarimon, just making all of your Dioboromon tokens have Rush when you digivolve into Dioboromon, so even Dioboromon is acting as some good combo potential. Then you have Rafflesimon, which is just, again, continuing the whole Digiburst trend that Green was already playing with, thus making Green even more powerful with Digiburst than it was before. And then you have access to a whole bunch of new level 7s that are both pushing the aggression and the control. So the new Omnimon SR is definitely looking to be a really good aggro tool to try to help close out games. So let's say you bust all of the opponent's security, whether you're playing red or blue, you could just digivolve into Omnimon and then use his advanced mechanic to just swing for game. And then you have more control cards like Omnimon's Wart D, where he's rezzing 2 dudes when you digivolve up into him, and then if he is sticking on the field, then his when attacking ability is acting as some really powerful removal. And then you also have Omnimon X, which again is acting as a really good defensive tool to just stop the opponent from attacking, and then he has his own when attacking ability that's also acting as some really good removal. And then you also have Omnimon's Wart D, which is just, again, another really powerful level 7 that could be utilized in various different ways for both offensive and defensive purposes. Then you have some even more really powerful removal options. So Black finally gets their first big removal in the form of Ultimate Flare. and then blue gets another really good removal in the form of Supreme Cannon, and then red gets another really powerful removal in the form of Transcendent Sword, and then yellow gets Spiral Masquerade, which in the right deck can be absolutely insane. And then you also have another card to try to cheat on tempo in the form of Mega Digimon Fusion that's acting very similar to Hidden Potential Discovered. And then you even have the introduction of new Duo Tamers, which could help put you to 3 memory, so that way you could make your plays as powerful as you possibly can, or if you already have 3 memory, then it just gives you even more memory to work with. So if you think that this type of gameplay style is going away in BT05, I definitely don't think it's going to be changing that much in BT05, and BT05 is looking to heavily enforce the style of gameplay even more than it is before, so this is the perfect opportunity to try to learn how to play this type of gameplay style, so that way when you go into the next set, you're going to be as ready as you possibly can. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are different ways that you could support me in the channel. So one of those ways is I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so whenever you use that affiliate link to buy cards off of tcgplayer.com, then some of the money will go to supporting me in the channel, and on top of which I also do stream over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so following and subbing is a good way to support me over on that platform as well. And on top of that, I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so whenever you buy one of my designs through them, then some of that money will also help go to supporting me in the channel. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.